When Americans pledge allegiance to the flag, we say the words, "and to the republic for which it stands." When politicians speak to us, however, they often urge us to defend our democracy. So which is it? Are we a republic, as the founders declared, or a democracy as generations since have proclaimed? This question goes to the very heart of American identity. Not only what kind of government we have, but what kind of people we aspire to be. To the men who framed the Constitution, the word democracy did not mean what it means today. In the 18th century, democracy meant direct rule by the people, a system where every citizen voted on every issue, kind of like a New England town hall. The idea to the founders was dangerous. James Madison, writing in Federalist No. 10, warned, "A pure democracy can admit of no cure for the mischiefs of faction, and has ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property." Alexander Hamilton was even blunter. In a 1788 speech, he declared, "Real liberty is not found in the extremes of democracy, but in moderate governments. Those who mean to form a solid republic ought to proceed to the confines of power, not to its destruction." And John Adams cautioned in 1814, "Remember, democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There was never a democracy yet that did not commit suicide." To them, pure democracy led to chaos, instability, and the rise of demagogues. So instead, they designed a republic, a government of the people, but governed through representatives and limited by a written constitution. Madison called this the middle way. A republic, he said, which derives all its power directly or indirectly from the great body of the people, and is administered by persons holding their offices during pleasure, or a limited period, or during good behavior. That definition from Federalist No. 39 became the model for what became the United States: a representative, constitutional, federal republic. In the early years, the Federalists, Washington, Adams, and Hamilton, proudly used the word republic. They feared that unchecked democracy could destroy liberty just as easily as monarchy could. George Washington, in his farewell address in 1796, warned the nation to beware of the alternate domination of one faction over another, sharpened by the spirit of revenge, saying it would lead to the ruins of public liberty. For Washington, the answer was a republic grounded in virtue, law, and reason, not passion. The Federalists were joined by thinkers like John Jay, who wrote, "Those who own the country ought to govern it," reflecting their belief that stability depended on education and property, not raw majority rule. Later, during the 1800s, the Whigs inherited this cautious republicanism. They argued for balanced government, rule of law, and protection of property rights. The constitutional framework itself reinforced this republic design. Senators were chosen by state legislatures. The president was chosen by electors, not directly by popular vote. And courts held the power to overturn laws violating the Constitution. These mechanisms were meant to filter public opinion, not ignore it, but channel it through deliberation and restraint. But not all Americans agreed. Thomas Jefferson and his followers believed that the people could be trusted more than the elites. In 1790, Jefferson wrote to Madison, "I am not a friend to a very energetic government. It is always oppressive." He saw the republic as legitimate only if it remained closely tied to the will of the people. By the 1820s, this vision reached full force under Andrew Jackson, who called his movement the democracy. Jackson declared, "The people are the government administering it by their agents. They are the sovereign power." During Jacksonian's era, property qualifications for voting disappeared, and for the first time nearly all white men could vote. This was the birth of popular democracy in America, and the beginning of the idea that government of the people meant direct participation and majority rule. As the nation grew, so did the meaning of the word democracy. Abraham Lincoln, in the midst of the Civil War, redefined it forever at Gettysburg. The government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Lincoln understood the Constitution as a republic, but a republic sustained by democratic ideals. He said, "The people are the rightful masters of both Congresses and courts, not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution." After Lincoln, the idea of democracy as the moral core of the republic became dominant. During the Progressive era, in the early 1900s, leaders like Theodore Roosevelt and Woodrow Wilson sought to make government more directly accountable to the people. They fought for the direct election of senators, initiative and referendum laws, and women's suffrage. Roosevelt proclaimed, "The essence of democracy is that the people should rule." And in 1913, with the 17th Amendment, the people gained the power to elect their senators directly, a decisive step towards greater democracy within the Republic's framework. By the mid-20th century, the word democracy had become almost interchangeable with America itself. Franklin D. Roosevelt, leading the nation through the Depression and war, told Congress in 1941, "The defense of democracy has been made more urgent by the recent acts of aggression." He spoke of the four freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom from want, and freedom from fear, as the foundation of democracy around the world. During the Cold War, presidents from Truman to Kennedy and Reagan described the global conflict as one between democracy and tyranny. Reagan said in 1982, "Freedom is not the sole prerogative of a chosen few, but the universal right of all God's children." Domestically, the civil rights movement invoked democracy as both promise and challenge. Martin Luther King Jr. declared, "We will place our bodies on the line until we are truly living out the meaning of our creed, that all men are created equal." For King and John Lewis, democracy was the unfulfilled dream of the Republic, something to be realized through equal rights and participation. Today, both terms republic and democracy carry political meaning, and each side claims to defend the American ideal. Those who emphasize the republic often highlight constitutional limits, federalism, and individual liberty. They quote the founders' warnings against mob rule and emphasize the importance of the Electoral College, the Senate, and the judicial independence. Conservative legal thinkers, such as Justice Antonin Scalia, argued that the genius of the American constitutional system is the dispersal of power, precisely so that no majority, however large, can trample the rights of the few. Modern groups like the Federalist Society and Heritage Foundation stress that our system is not designed for simple majority rule, but for limited government under law. On the other hand, those who champion American democracy emphasize voting rights, representation, and public accountability. President Barack Obama said in 2016, "Democracy is not self-executing. It depends on all of us, the people, staying engaged, informed, and inclusive." Senator Bernie Sanders has described his political philosophy as democratic socialism, meaning, as he put it, the idea that democracy should extend into the economic and social life of the nation. And Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, reflecting on the Constitution, said, "The great thing about our Constitution is that it can evolve to make real the idea of democracy." Most modern constitutional scholars agree that the United States is both a democratic republic, a hybrid of popular sovereignty and constitutional structure. Historian Gordon Wood writes that the founders feared democracy and created a republic, but their creation inevitably became more democratic over time. The legal scholar Akhil Reed Amar observes that the Constitution begins with the words, "We the people." That is a profoundly democratic opening, even as the document that follows constrains and structures how that people may rule. So while the founders used the word republic, the nation they built evolved into a democracy, one governed by constitutional principles, not by direct vote on every issue. If you ask a political scientist today, is the United States a democracy or a republic? The answer is normally both. We are a constitutional democracy, a republican form of government that operates through democratic means. We hold elections, yet we also have courts that can overturn laws. We have majority rights, but we also protect minority rights. We are governed by the people, but bound by the Constitution. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor summarized it best: we are a democratic republic, a government by the people, constrained by the Constitution. The modern struggle is not about labels, it's about balance. When we forget the republic, we risk majoritarian excess, the idea that whoever wins an election can do anything. When we forget democracy, we risk elitism and exclusion, government by the few for the few. Benjamin Franklin, leaving the Constitutional Convention in 1787, was asked, "Dr. Franklin, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" He replied, "A republic if you can keep it." Today, perhaps the question is, can we keep both, our republic of laws and our democracy of participation? Because America endures not by choosing between them, but by keeping them in tension, balanced, and alive. I'm Bruce Alton Carlson. If you'd like to see more about the United States Constitution and how this government works, please like, subscribe, and come back and see me.